Welcome to Embrace the Suck with Benny. Tony! My man!
Hear me?
Yo, I can hear you loud and clear, and so can everybody else. We are live.
Oh, snap. All right.
Yeah, so I didn't tell you that we were going live, but I think that's the best part about this. How are you?
Cheers, first off.
Cheers.
No, I'm doing pretty good, man.
How was your day?
Well, it was pretty good. I went to one of my buddies. His kid had like his 16th birthday party, so we went and did that this morning. And then I shipped a kid to boot camp today. So
Was it one of your first?
no,
Like
so
how
it
many?
it was actually the recruiter before me enlisted him, and then he kind of became my poolee. So
Okay.
yeah, here, lighting's better. Yeah, and obviously,
doubt.
I went and got a haircut, because I'm a good Marine.
Nice. So you can have a haircut tomorrow on Monday, like Marines should.
Crazy, right?
Bro, I gotta tell you, man, I'm glad. So I made this comment in multiple episodes, and I've said it before, and I've called people out on it, and it aggravates me when people don't have a haircut on recruiting duty. Like,
Yeah.
first of all, it's a problem in and of itself if you're a Marine and you don't have a fresh haircut. You've been getting one since boot camp. Like, it's something that's indoctrinated into you. Like, I may not shave my mustache, but I still make sure that I have a fresh haircut because it's just like, yes, hashtag, where's your haircut? But, and that's the thing about it is that, like, if you, especially because somebody asked me the other day about confidence, they were like, how do you maintain having confidence while on recruiting duty? And my first thing I said was, well, are you properly groomed? And is your uniform tight? Like, because that right there, if you're starting off the day and your uniform is not tight, your haircut's not tight, then how are you possibly going to be confident about what you're talking about?
Yeah, especially if you're going to a high school or you're going out ACing and everything.
Yeah.
You look like garbage, then nobody's gonna be like, I think I'm gonna go talk to that dude.
Yeah, bro, it's mad annoying, bro. And it just makes you like, I know I might be different than other people, but like having a fresh haircut just makes while I'm sitting in that barber chair, like I could be having the shittiest day, and then all of a sudden, as the haircut's finishing, I'm like ready to talk to anybody and everybody. And that's like so that's a question for you is like, so first of all, how did you find yourself on the duty? Did you get histed like most people?
I did.
So how did that feel? Like, how did that I don't know what that feeling feels like. So how did that overwhelming feeling feel like?
So I was actually on deployment when I found out that
I've heard that. My boy
histed.
Ramos told me that on one of my last episodes. He was like, "Yeah, I was deployed."
Yeah. So I was deployed to Special Purpose MAGTF in Kuwait, and then the email came out and it was like, hey, you got to go do a screening, and I'm like, of course I do, right? And so and then I ended up finding out like when we came back that it was like, hey, my chief warrant officer actually, because he was a recruiter, and the mass sergeant that I worked with too, they were both recruiters. And I came in one morning and they were like, hey, we got the best news for you. And I was like, oh man. And this guy's name's Chief Warrant Officer Roberts. He just had this grin on his face. And I was like, I got picked, didn't you? And he was like, hey, just come here, and showed me on MOL and showed me my future MCC code. And I was like, God. I was like, all right. I was like, well, there's nothing really I can do about it now. I was like, I just, tell me about everything, because that's, it's in my mentality, it's better to go into something prepared, like, that I'm not walking into it blind. And so, over the time before I went to BRC, they were like, yeah, do this, try this, try that. And then I've got a few buddies that are recruiters now, but same thing.
So was there? So when they spoke to you, the chief warrant officer and the mass sergeant, was it like most people where it's like, bro, you're about to have the worst time of your life, it's gonna be the worst time ever? Or were they like legit, like, hey, listen, man, There's going to be good times. There's going to be bad times. But a lot of those times are up to you. And you need to figure it out. And you need to adapt and overcome. Because I feel like a lot of times what happens is that Marines immediately are told, hey, you're going to hate the next 3 years of your life. Get ready for it. And then
Yeah.
immediately, and I was having this conversation with the Master O'Brien, Keith, on one of my last episodes, and he was like, "Bro, nobody come. I want to meet the Marine that goes to BRC saying, hey, I can't wait to fail.'
Yeah. That's
You know what I mean?
that,
But it's
that
like
doesn't exist.
so, right? Like so, but then all of a sudden something happens, and then all of a sudden they're like, oh fuck, I don't care anymore.
Yeah.
So how was that interaction with you with that chief warrant officer and that mass sergeant? Like, were they kind of like both? Like, what was their take and their how did they give it to Tony?
So they kind of prefaced it by, hey, look, this is gonna suck. It's as you would say, it's a fact of reality.
Yeah,
But they were like, hey, there's you're gonna get a lot of good out of it. And I was like, okay. I was like, tell me what good that I'm gonna get out of it. And the mass sergeant specifically, he was like, hey man, he's like, look, you're gonna be able to talk to people. He's like a lot better. He was like, in just the general like selling skills and all the skills that you get obviously from MC3, and he was like, he's like, at the end of your tour, watch. He was like, you're gonna be walking around and you're just gonna start saying things and you're gonna be like, oh my God. But yeah, that was definitely a big part of it. They were just like, hey, look, embrace the fact that it's gonna suck.
bro.
It's gonna suck.
That's the thing, bro. Is like, and that's the part that like, so I might get a lot of shade for this because I'm just gonna come out and say it. And I said this to a
Yeah.
friend of mine the other day who's currently a master sergeant. And he's a 8412, and this guy is like, he's up there. I'm not gonna say where he is in the recruiting echelon, but he's in a very paramount place of part, And me and him were just talking the other day, and I said to him, I was like, I find it funny because there's this particular RSS that I was talking about to him, and I was like, bro, these dudes are 3 for 7. I was like, Matt Sart, if you were there, you would have made mission by now. And then I said to him, I was like, bro, if I was there, I would have been made mission. And then he was like, Bennett, shut the fuck up, da 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 da. And then all of a sudden he's like, bro, you're not taking into account COVID. You're not taking into account M-roads. You're not taking into account all this stuff. And I looked at him and I was like, listen. I was like, it was FaceTime. So I was like, listen, Master, I get everything that you're saying. As a person, as Benny, as Staff Sergeant Bennett, whoever the hell you want to talk to, I cannot personally speak from Emeralds because I don't even know who the hell she is. I have no idea. I've just
that's
heard,
the new beast on the street.
Yeah, and that's all I've heard is that she's the beast in high heels, right?
Yep.
But what I said to him was, Master, 10 years ago when I met you as a Lance, and I was a Lance Corporal.
Yeah.
If I had gone out to the street and I had looked at you and said, hey, I don't have an appointment tomorrow because of M-roads, Chris, or COVID, or anything, what the fuck would you have told me?
He'd have been like,
now,
yeah.
But now all of a sudden, it has become this thing where people are like, oh, bro, COVID. Oh, bro. It's like, I feel like every person I talk to, all I hear is excuses. And back in the day, that was never allowed. Like, and I said this to him. So there was this master sergeant that I met when I was a Lance Corporal. He's now a Master Guns. And I'm not going to go ahead and say his name. But when I met him, he scared the living daylights out of me. Like, I was a Lance Corporal just fresh off my deployment. And I had a haircut. It was Monday morning, and I had just gotten the haircut at like 9 a.m. And I met this man for the first time at 10 a.m. And I come walking in the office, and I said, I remember I gave him the proper greeting of the day. I said, good morning, Master. And he looked at me and he went, where's your goddamn haircut, Marine? And I was like, I just left the barber. And he was like, He was like, "Get out of here right now. Go get a goddamn haircut." And I was like,
Probably
"Good
because
to
your
go, Matt."
hair on top was long.
I don't know. So I was like, "Good to go, Matt Sarn." So I leave, whatever. And then this one thing this guy would always say, like
Yep.
when recruiters would say to him, it was like 10 years ago, when recruiters would say to him, "Hey, Matt Sarn, I'm trying." That's what they would say, bro. He would go
Mm-hmm.
off. He would go off. He'd be like, trying ain't a course of action, devil dog. You gotta fucking do. And he'd bug the fuck out because people would say all the time, I'm trying, I'm trying, I'm trying. And he'd be like, bro, trying doesn't feed your family. Trying
Yeah.
doesn't, and that's my thing is that, like, I feel like all of a sudden, not only like is it just the Marine Corps, but like a lot of these recruiters who come out on the duty, they're like, "Hey man, I tried. Yeah, it is what it is." And it's like, bro, no, like why? That's never been okay.
But see,
Now,
that's the thing is you can teach people like MC3, you can teach people all these different techniques and everything. The one thing you can't teach anybody is work ethic. You're like you can't teach people drive. Like
yeah,
you either got it or you don't. Like that's and I don't know. Maybe me being such a junior recruiter, like I still gotta learn, because I think, because I just picked up gunny that I'm eventually gonna probably take over a station, and
yeah,
I don't know. I got to figure out that eventually, if I get a recruiter that just has zero drive or ambition, how to flip that and be like like without without being like, hey, you're gonna stay here until 12, 1 o'clock in the morning, like
yeah.
how
And that's a great question, because it's so hard. And I think being a staff in CIC, that's the hardest thing, is because not everybody has drive. And
hmm
then it's also finding what drives, because you have an office of 5 people. Like when I was a staff in CIC, I was a staff in CIC of a 1 and 4 and then a 1 and 5.
yeah,
And both times, every fucking person in that office was complete polar opposites. And I had to find out, like, there was some Marines, like I had this one Marine who, if he was okay with never going home. He was like, "Oh, I don't have to go home to my wife. I'm good. I
oh
I
my
don't want
god,
to hear my kids crying. I will be here all night. Let's go." And it was
oh
like
my
so.
god,
And then there was other Marines who their drive, like my boy Spears, his drive, dude, he'd walk in every morning 8 a.m. and be like, "Hey, Staff Sergeant, what do I got to do to be out of here about 4:30? I want to have my time with my kids. I want to make dinner for my family. I got to go to the gym." And I told him, "Hey, man, you need this many NWAs, whatever, whatever, whatever." And
yeah,
that's the hardest part, is finding the drive between people, because and then it's also too because the drive changes as well. Like as your
yeah,
time goes on, 3 years on the duty, your drive changes. Like me, I came out on the duty, I was married, and I had no children. Then a year later, I had my first son. Then another 2 years later, I had my daughter. So
yeah,
like now my drive went from going home to being with my wife to going home to
yeah,
be with my kids
yeah,
to alone time. So like the drive definitely changes. So here's
yeah.
here's a question. Here's a question for you.
What you got?
You're new on the duty. How do you feel so far? Like, do you feel like how do you feel coming out of BRC? Do you feel
Okay.
well equipped? Do you feel equipped enough? Do you think BRC needs to be more in depth? Do you what do you think?
So I think BRC needs more reality, because as it is right now, like I understand the fact that it's very cookie cutter, and very basic, because that's what it is. It's basic recruiter's course. But I really think they need to throw in more reality. Like when you go up and talk to a kid, and you're like, "Hey man, you ever thought about being a Marine?" And the kid's like, "No, get away from me."
Yeah.
Like when you get to that battle of the disinterest, like how do you actually go about doing that?
Mm.
You know what I'm saying?
Bro, I agree, man, and I say that because so I had this idea, and I gave this idea to an RI, and the RI was like, "It won't work. We could never make it happen." But this was my idea. because I think it would make fucking sense, right?
Yeah.
So imagine yourself, sergeant, staff sergeant, gunnery sergeant, whatever. You go, you have the whole par class, right?
Yep.
Go to the closest mall, right?
Yep.
And at this time, the par class just checked in. So they don't know any person in the command before who they're meeting in headquarters, right?
Yeah. Yep.
So you have them go to the local mall closest to that headquarters, and then you have recruiters go to that mall in cities.
Ooh.
And purposely walk by the recruiter and see, hey man, hey Staff Sergeant Mileham, hey Gunny Mileham, that dude walked by you 5 times.
Yeah.
Why didn't you approach him? Hey, or he does approach me, or I approach him. And then we actually have this, but they don't know what's happening. They're getting punked and they have no idea. and then when the day is done, y'all go back to headquarters.
Yep.
But when you walk in the room, those Marines that were at the mall they're sitting there at the table, and they're like, "Yo, so what's good?" And then all of a sudden they're like, "Fuck!" And now you can be critiqued.
Yeah.
Well, not knowing you were actually role playing, never knowing you had to do a role play. You would never know, because if you do an actual role play, you know it's role playing. It's not the same thing. So if you were to get punked through the actual training, you'd be like, oh shit, like, yo, I learned some shit.
That's genius.
I know. I would love for somebody to do it, because it's like you said, bro, like, it's not BRC, and I understand, but like, I'll go ahead and say it because all the dudes that were there when I was there are gone. So I'm an EADer. I will never forget the brief that I was given. The first day I was there, I don't know their names, but they called all of the EAD Marines into the headquarters, into the room where you get your tattoos checked, like where the classroom is.
Yep.
They called all the EAD Marines in there. And they said, hey, listen, if you tell anybody about what really happens out on the street, you're getting fucking kicked out of this class. And I was like, because I had been on the streets for like 4 months before I got a BRC date. So they literally told all the EAD Marines, you don't talk about anything we don't talk about. If we don't speak about it in class, you don't bring it up. And I'm like, no, that's the problem. Yeah. Because when people get out there on the street and they're like, bro, this is not how BRC was. I got to really do this. And now you have Marines. Bro, I had a buddy of mine tell me that he had a Marine check out a BRC. He got to his RS and they called him. They're like, hey, you're not here. You're supposed to be here at 9:15. He's like, yeah, I'm not checking in, bro. Like, the dude didn't even check in to the RS. Like, just was like, nah, bro, I'm good.
Nah, I'm good.
Yeah, and it's like, bro, like, what are we doing to combat that? And that's the thing. Damn. Is like, where, like, it's like you said, bro, is that I understand to an extent why BRC is the way that it has to be, because every AO is differently. Yep. I don't want to teach you how to do iCombat V, and then for our AO, it's very different. Maybe there's some things that you got to tweak, whatever. Maybe there's a different, but for the most part, though, the interview process, the screening process is the same.
It is, yeah.
But like, but that's one of the main reasons why I've created this podcast, because no one was telling people the real stuff you're going to deal with while you're out there. Like, no one tells you have to remind a kid to wear a belt every single MEPS run. Like, no one tells you that, hey, you better make sure no one tells you, hey, you better make sure that kid has underwear on. Or you better make sure that female didn't come with no panties on. Like, these are things that no one ever talks about, but it's like, maybe if we talked about them, these are fewer, less problems we would have when they got out there.
Yeah. So we had a dude that, so because I'm a recruiter, like, in RS San Diego. So sometimes we'll get Marines that are going to BRC, and they'll be like, hey, can I come out and do RA for like a month prior to going to BRC? And most of the time they come out here.
That makes sense.
Yeah, because they want to get a or get a feel for it, you know, and actually learn the reality before, you know, before they go there, and they're just like, oh yeah, like, okay, BRC, you know.
Yeah.
And we had a dude named Sergeant Acosta. I'll throw him out there. But he yeah, he's in BRC, and you know, he came you know, he came back to the station and everything. We're like, hey, how's it going and everything? And he was like, yeah, you know, he's like, it's crazy how different it is. He was like, you know, and I understand that it's, you know, it's very, very basic, but he was like, yeah, he's like, when you're definitely out on the streets, you know, and you're actually making, you know, TCs, and you know, you're actually talking to people. He was like, it's different than what they teach you there, because they teach to the fact of like continuing the conversation regardless.
Yeah.
Whereas, you know, that's obviously not the case. You know,
see, but like, so here's the thing though, is that like, so I get 100%, because I know that there's people that are going to listen who are BRC instructors are going to be like, listen, we can't teach reality because it's not fucking reality here, guys. Someone's going to say that. So I'm going to be the one to say it so they don't have to. The reality of it is that you cannot teach reality. I can't go grab some civilian out of nowhere, kidnap them, bring them to BRC, and now have you AC him. We can't go do that.
Yeah.
But what I think of a huge problem of it is just the lack of transparency. Like,
yeah,
and that's why, like, I like the fact that, like, you know, one of the guys that I had, he would constantly tell us stories about kids who popped on deck or stuff like this, or recruiters who did stuff that was shady and because it was like, okay, these are things that are going to happen.
Yeah.
But, you know, but I think that there's just so much that's hidden because you don't want them to realize that, like, this is gonna happen. It's like, bro, like I think there needs to be more of like a down to earth type thing. But I also think what's effed up too is that, like, it's also on the instructor, right? Because like my instructor was straight out fucking garbage. Like how that Marine was ever an 84, I don't care. Like, bro, I had this conversation with like the other instructors, and I was like, I'm glad that I knew what I was doing, because if I left BRC with him as my instructor and that was the only thing I knew, I would fail my whole career. Like, this dude was literally the epitome of like garbage. And I say that because, like, when 4:30 was over, when class was done, he went home. And whenever you would ask for extra help, or hey, what do you think about this, or what is that? Like, I had Marines coming to me, like my boy Staff Sergeant Madden, my Staff Sergeant Ramos, a whole bunch of dudes that I was at BRC with were coming to me for help. Like, hey man, like, can you help me with the interview process? Hey, can you help me with the benefit tag presentation? Like, hey, can you help me with this? And I'm like, bro, like, yeah, I'm gonna help you with that, but like, I'm teaching you like my way. Like, this is the way that I do it, because I've been doing it for 6 months. But, you know, but the thing that was effed up was that when they would go to the instructor, he'd be like, no, I don't have time. But now, mind you, I had Master Rory, who every single day at 4:00 would go sit at Domino's until 10:00 at night and do extra help, do extra, you know, area canvassing tactics. He would stand outside and tell you to come outside and AC him. Yeah. And it was like, bro, like, why? And I understand, like, not every Marine or every mess sergeant or gunnery sergeant is going to be that way. I get that. But like, that's why it's paramount that you have quality instructors at the course.
Yeah.
Like, you have to have people, because like, and I think that's the problem, if I'm honest, is I think a huge part of it is that, like, you're not taking into account that these people are making recruiters that are going to work for the next 36 months. Like, I think that's the thing, is that, like, we have this quick ass class, and then it's like, hey, the 12 community will take care of them when they get out there. But then it's like, okay, but how much training do you really get when you get out on the street?
From a 12.
From a 12 or from a staff at COIC? Like, because like, reality speaks, right?
Yeah.
When you become a boss,
Yeah.
you're all like, because we know you're going to become a boss 9 times out of 10 if you're a gunny, right?
Yeah.
So if you become a boss, right, you're going to train, and this all depends on you. I don't know you as a gunny. I know nothing about
Yeah.
you.
Yeah.
So you're either going to try your hardest to learn from other staff at COICs and other 8412s so that you can train your Marines, because on Fridays we're supposed to do training.
Yeah.
But 9 times out of 10, staff at COICs who don't know how to train aren't going to conduct training on Friday because they don't know how.
Yeah.
So if you
And
didn't get if you
no,
didn't get quality training at BRC, then when are you supposed to get it?
yeah, and that's something that I think me personally, I think I got lucky with, because whether it's just like the RS or like the RSS, that I went to, like we actually do training, and like, like the whole, role play and everything, and like we usually do it like right after the morning meeting, probably like twice a week. And I remember like listening to one of your episodes where you said, like something about who who realistically gets a 369, right?
Yeah,
And like who realistically like gets a par eval.
yeah,
And I still have like my BRC like group chat and everything. And all like I'm talking to those people like all the time, and I'm like, yo, yeah, you got your 3 month eval? And they were like, no, not yet. And I'm like, bro, you're like 5 months in, dude. And
yeah,
they're like, and they're like, oh, wait, you got your 3 month? And I'm like, yeah. like
yeah,
like why didn't you? And like, when you actually did the 3 month, it's literally like an 8412, an ARI coming and literally spending, the entire day with you, and be like, hey bro, you went and talked to that dude, but hey, you didn't see the tattoo that was like up behind his ear, and I'm like, no. And he's
yeah,
like, hey, he's like, bro, that ain't gonna count. I'm like, all right, well, on to the next one. And
yeah,
then at the end of the day, actually going over the MOJT, like,
yeah,
checklist, and being like, all right, hey, these are the things, and actually like going through it.
yeah.
Like,
And then
like
doing it the way that it's supposed to be. When the six
yeah,
month comes, hey, last month, these are the things that I told you got to work on at your 3 month. How did you go through with those? Now I'm going to see, I didn't certify you on the 3 month, but now here I am back again on your 6 month. Am I
yeah,
going to certify you this time? And that's the thing about it. And like, is that there's so many Marines. And again, listen, I will never sit here and say that all of the problem is on the lack of training. I'm
yeah,
not going to. I'm not going to say that, because there's a lot of Marines who get a fuck ton of training spewed into them, but at the end of the day, they don't have the drive. They don't care about the mission. They don't care about the family. Like, there's this dude that I talked to the other day at one of my old offices. I swung by, and I was just talking to him, and I was like, bro, like, what's going on with you, man? I was like, dude, you've been out here a year and a half, and like, you still haven't figured it out. And I looked at him and I was like, bro, like, when I met you, like, he was my Marine before I left the office. Like, he checked into me.
mm-hmm,
And I was like, bro, I thought you were gonna kill it. Like, I remember us having our sit down, and I told you that because of your tenacity, because of your angst, because of who you were, like, off of our first interaction, like, I thought you were gonna kill it and destroy it, bro. And I was
yeah.
like, and now a year and a half later, like, bro, you're not it. Like, and I was like, what's going on?
Is
And then
he
he
is
was
he
like,
is he just giving up?
I don't know.
Yeah,
Because like he straight out was like, I just finally figured it out. And then I was like, what do you mean? And he was like, well, I just finally started meeting my numbers. And I'm like, bro, a year and a half, it took you a year and a half to meet your numbers. I was like, that's not good, bro. And then I was like, and then he's like, so then I started talking to him like, I'm not a boss no more. And I said that to him. I
yeah,
was like, bro, anything that I say to you has no effect on me. I'm not a recruiter. I'm not a staff at COIC. So if you start writing tomorrow, it doesn't change my life.
yeah,
But I looked at him and I was like, bro, you're about to have a kid. Like, you're about to have a son any minute now. And when that son comes into this world, like, do you want him to know at some point in his life that his father quit on his team, on his office? I was
Nah.
like, it has nothing to, I was like, at this time, it's no longer about you. I was like, it's about that your son that's coming into this world. And even if you don't care about the office or you don't care about your boss, and I pointed at the boss, I was like, if you don't care about him, I was like, you've got to care about yourself because eventually you might get RFC'd and then you're not going to have the ability to take care of your son.
Yeah.
And now like this is like you got to figure it the fuck out, bro. And that's the thing is that like, but I guess for me it's so hard to understand, like, because you going back to what you said was like, a lot of people just don't have the drive.
Yeah.
And for me, I just don't get, and I don't know if it's because like I don't know what it is, but like for me it's like, bro, you've been in the Marine Corps for 10 plus years. So even if you don't have drive, why is it so hard for you to communicate something that has been your job for 12 years?
Yeah.
Like when people, I just don't, I can't fathom it. When people are like, hey, I can't do an interview. It's like, what do you mean, bro? Every one of those, like,
I think I have an answer to that, to be honest, because this is just my thoughts, is people become very, very, very MOS dependent. Does that make sense? So,
and you know what I just thought about as you said that.
Yeah.
For the past 10 or 12 years of your career, you've only spoken to Marines the majority of the time.
Yep.
You've never spoken to a civilian at length. So now you're speaking a different terminology. You're speaking a different. I've never realized that until just now. I never thought about that until now. And I'm like, wow, it makes sense.
Yep. Because think about it. You're past 12 years or or whatever. Let's say that you're in the wing. I'm an air winger. I work on V-22 Ospreys. So like, especially in like that kind of community, the MOS side of it sometimes can overshadow the Marine Corps side of it. And we call it like the blue side, green side.
Yeah.
It's like, all right, hey, you're good on green side. All right, hey, now you need to focus on blue side, right? Because blue side's what matters. Blue side is what makes airplanes fly. Like, hey, cool, you can pass your PFT, tight. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it becomes very MOS dependent, and then the Marine Corps side of it kind of slips to the side. Now it's like, all right, hey, now you have to go sell the Marine Corps.
Yeah.
You're not selling aviation. You can use that as a tool, but you're not selling admin. You're not selling supply. You have to speak about the Marine Corps, and I guess.
But even then though, right? Like, I'm not saying like I'm not talking like all right. So get away from educational benefits and get away from stuff like that.
Yep.
How do you, as a sergeant or a staff sergeant or a gunnery sergeant, which I believe shouldn't even be on the duty, but whatever, even sergeants and staff sergeants, how can you not sell pride of belonging? How can you not talk about leadership and management skills? How can you not talk about self times 3? How can you not talk about physical fitness? How can you not talk about freaking pay? What I forget.
Financial security.
Financial security. Like the only one that you should really after everything the two of us just discussed, the only one thing really is like educational benefits. Okay, I don't know the ins and outs of the GI Bill. I don't know the ins and outs of these things, but all the rest of those things are things that as a Marine sergeant or staff sergeant you should inhibit and you should have.
Yeah, you
so
should.
It's like, and that's my thing is that like I don't get why it becomes such a hard thing to sit down in some. I think a huge part of it really though is that like it's hard for people to uncover the reasons why, or for other people to uncover the needs, the motivators. I think that's the biggest part. I think the huge thing is like people can build rapport all day, but like when it comes to like the needs, the motivators, the priority needs, like when that comes into it, all of a sudden it's like, bro, you know what I'm saying? Like, what are some of the issues that you found that you had, like in the beginning?
So by any stretch of the imagination, I don't think I'm like, the superstar recruiter or anything like that. Like I didn't write a contract for my first 2 months, and but ever since then, it's been like 2, 3, 2, 2, 2, but I think the biggest thing that I encountered when I first got out here is I did my first interview, and my boss was sitting right there, like with me, and it was a kid that was applying for the NROTC scholarship, and like I was like, all right, hey, cool, yep, let's try and let's sell him on the reserves, and because if he didn't get the NROTC scholarship, then he'd go into the PLC program, and stuff like
Yeah.
that. So I was like, all right, cool. Went through. I probably spent maybe 5 minutes on the first tag, which was leadership and management skills,
Mhm.
and I didn't even realize it until I was literally on the third tag, and so what I tried to do is I tried to like tie his third tag back into his first tag, and then be like, all right, yeah, so and going back into this, what did you mean? And just going through like that. But after the interview, my boss like looked at me and she was like, you spent like 5 minutes on that first tag. I was like, yeah. I was like, I know, but yeah, I don't know. It's honestly, it's been hard to learn, to be truthfully honest, because some people do have a passion for this, for being a recruiter. It's so far, it's not something that I enjoy. I have too much personal pride not to suck. You know what I mean? But
Mhm.
that just is what it is. And one thing that I don't think a lot of people do is like I was talking about before, that group chat that you get at BRC.
Yeah.
I don't think people utilize that enough,
No, they don't.
because I might be, like a subject matter expert on, pride of belonging, or, things like that. But, for you, like you said you didn't know all the ins and outs of the GI Bill and everything like that.
Yeah,
If
yeah.
we were in that group chat, be like, hey, can somebody, hook me up and talk me through like the GI Bill, because I know this kid that I'm gonna talk to, his big thing is he wants to go to college. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? And dude, I'm telling you, like, we do that all the time, like literally every day.
Yeah.
And it's just bouncing ideas back and forth. You know?
No, and yeah, and like just to go back what you were saying about the interviews, like bro, I've seen people do entire interviews in like 10 minutes, and I'm like, bro, I'm like, dude, what are we doing, man? Like, because like, and I think for me, like at least my thing, right? So I've said this before, and I didn't learn anything from my staff at COSC. That man never showed me an interview. That man never showed me anything, and everything I learned was from the other recruiters in the office, the seniors, like the senior guys. I just sat there and watched their interviews, listened to their interviews. I watch, and that's I think is a huge part of like what you're saying with the BRC thing with the chat rooms.
Hmm.
But like for me, it's like a lot of people don't just take the time to watch and listen and learn, and but I also think that's a problem because we're so quick to like, hey, you got to go find your own contracts, and it's like, bro, he doesn't know how.
Yeah.
Like, he doesn't know how. Like, why don't you take him step to step? Why don't you actually do a real turnover? Why don't you actually show him how to do it? Why don't like because that was my biggest thing. And then one of my buddies, Gunny Ujama, his biggest thing was if I can show you how to do it, and then you can't do it, well, now I can say, hey, bitch, I showed you how to do it. And that was my thing is like I had a lot of people that like a lot of my command members were mad at me because like bro when we did TC Power Hour I would
Yeah.
stand in the room with everybody and I would TC with all of you and I would purposely like when like my boy Murphy my boy Murphy would be like, "Oh, this list sucks. I can't get anything off this list." I'd be like, "All right, word, let me get it." And he'd give me the list. I would literally swear to God, he hates me for it. I would bro, I had a kid.
Like 3
Literally,
appointments.
he literally just said this list sucks. I can't get shit. He hands me the phone. I said a same day interview. Like literally minutes later, the kid came in with his
Oh
mom and dad,
shit.
and I was like,
Damn.
"Bro, what do you mean?" And but the thing is that like the problem is that like for instance, my shirt, it says "not my son." How
Yeah.
many times do you get that as a remark? But the
All the
problem
time.
is, but the problem is, what do y'all do when someone says "not my son"? Most people are like, "All right, have a good day," click, and then you're gonna call back because you haven't contacted the kid. So
Yeah.
why not stay on the phone with that mom? Find this. You have the influencer on the phone. Why are you not finding out from that mother why she feels that way?
Yeah.
And that's the thing is a lot of people, the moment they have that disinterest, they're done. They're like, oh nah, man, I couldn't get through to her. And it's like, bro, what do you mean you couldn't get through to her? You hung up the phone. Like, of course you couldn't get through. You had her on the phone. And that's the thing where the drive comes into place. Because if you have the person on the phone, if I don't care who it is, if you have the person on the phone, like how many times do you call somebody and you get, and this happened to me at work the other day. I called someone, I was like, "Hi, is this Tony?" And they were like, "Who are you looking for?" I said, "Is this Tony?" And the woman and it was a woman, so like whatever, Rebecca. So she goes, "No, I think you have the wrong number." And in my head, I'm like, "Are you or are you not? Like, how could you say I think you have the wrong number? Like what?"
Yeah.
But even then, I'm like, listen, this may not be the person that I was intending to call, but guess what? I got somebody on the phone. Hey, this phone
I
call
gotta
was never meant for you, but have you ever thought about becoming a Marine? And
I
then,
I got a story for you, like when you're done.
no, yeah, I'm done.
So I was I was making TCs, right? And I was calling grads. And I'm like sitting there calling, and my RI, he was there in the office, I think on like a Saturday or something. And he was like, "Yo," he's like, "Try this. Hey, is this so and so? I saw that you requested more information, on the Marine Corps. What is it that interests you? Blah 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 blah. Whether it's the parent or the kid. Oh, you don't think they're interested? Why not? So on and so forth.
Yeah, yeah.
Anyways, I was making a call, right? I called this girl, said that, and come to find out it was her sister. And she was like, yeah, no, she's going to like UC, whatever in like Northern California. And I was like, okay. I was like, hey, I was like, what school do you go to? And she said one of the high schools that I'm the recruiter for. And I was like, oh, like really? I was like, are you a senior? And she's like, yeah. And I was like, hey, I was like, have you seen me walking around like campus? And I was like, I was like blue pants, like big white hat. And she's like, I think I have. I was like, okay. And I was like, well, what about you? I was like, have you ever thought about being a Marine? No. I was like, all right, cool. Talked to her for about 30 minutes. She came in the next day for an appointment.
Yeah.
Went through the whole interview process and everything, and it was funny at the end. I was like, all right. I was like, I don't think I need to ask you this. I was like, because I think I know the answer. I was like, but do you want to move forward with being a Marine? And she like looked and she was like, I can't believe I'm gonna say this. She was like, I do. And and we're still, like working with with her mom and everything. But yeah,
Yeah.
like she like straight up,
Bro, and exactly, and that's the thing about it, bro, is that like there's so many people that don't understand that.
yeah,
Like, and it's something that you learn. Like you learn it because like I talked about this in one of my episodes where like when I first ever went out to ACing, a buddy of mine, Devin, he was this dude out of the Marine Corps, had gotten out like 5 years ago, and he heard that I was on recruiting duty. We went to church together, and he was like, "Hey man, I was a recruiter out in San Diego." He was like, "I'm no longer on the duty, but I was really good, but I can come and help you." So he went out ACing with me, just because. And I was walking around and past people, and I wasn't talking to nobody. And he was like, bro, you realize how many people you miss that might know somebody? He was like, it may
Yeah.
not be that person, but they may know someone that knows somebody.
Yep.
And it's like, bro, and even to this day, like I still like I'm no longer a Marine Corps recruiter, but like I talk to people all the time, and I'm like, oh, have you ever thought about it? And it's excuse me, and sometimes they're like, yeah, I have. I've always thought about it. And it's
Yeah.
like, and that's the funniest thing is that like, a lot of times it's just like that thing, or it's like, bro, I had this similar story. There was this person that I was trying to recruit, and I kept calling the house, to calling the house, calling the house. And the mom, this kid wanted to join the Marine Corps, but the mom always answered the phone and said no.
Yeah.
And the daughter finally, years later, I got her in the Marine Corps. And years later, the mom tells me, she's like, yeah, she always wanted to, but every time you answered the phone, I hung up. And I was like, bro, what? And like, and that's the thing, man, is that like, you just got to be, and that's why, like, I used to have these arguments with friends of mine, like, some people are like, hey, Marine Corps recruiting duty is 10% skilled, other 90% of it is chance. And it's like, I don't agree with that, because if you have, it's like, if you don't have the skill, right, and you have the chance, but you don't have the skill, well, it doesn't matter that you had the chance.
Yeah.
Because if you, it's like, football. If you get the catch, but you don't know what to do from that end, now you're fucked, because you
Yeah.
didn't have the
It's
skill, you didn't know what to do. So if you're not ready for it when the time comes, then you're going to be beat.
yeah. It's
And
like that old saying where it's like, hey, you can get every opportunity, but if you don't prepare for those, like you're gonna squander
yeah,
them. You know.
but again, and that's why for me, I think a huge problem is the lack of training that's given from the top down on recruiting duty, because anywhere else in the Marine Corps, if something ever happened, the first place they'll turn is training.
Yep.
Anywhere else in the Marine Corps. If your job at with what you do, if anything
Yeah.
happened on the airline, the first thing they would do is like, hey, let me see his training log. Was he trained on this? And then you, as a Marine, could be like, oh no, I never heard about that shit, and now
Yeah.
you're scot free. But
Yep.
now here on recruiting duty, it's like, nah, bro, it's your fault. It's your fault, and it's like, well, let me see his training log. When was the last time an 8412 was in the, like, even if this Marine is garbage, right? Like the one I was talking to
Yeah.
yesterday. He might be garbage. He might be trash. But let me ask you this. What does his training log look like? When was the last time somebody from the 12 shop came and sat down with this dude for 3 or 4 days? Like,
Yeah.
did that happen? And then if it did happen, then why hasn't he been RFC'd? Like, I don't know. But so So how does it make you feel knowing that there is a chance that you may become a staff in COIC at some point? Like, are
Oh
you
well.
overwhelmed by that? Are you
So
like, do you
so
want that? Like, or would you rather be the gunny that just goes chills at MEPS and does nothing
so
with the next 2.5 years, and
so
it still
first
leaves
off,
and still gets a
yeah.
ribbon?
So first off, you just MC3'd me. So I did catch on to that. How does it make you feel? No. You know, the CO of my RS, like he came to the office and everything, and he was like, hey, yeah, you're gonna be picking up gunny. He was like, he's like, we're gonna be looking to make you like a staff NCOIC. He was like, you're picking. He's like, you seem to be picking up recruiting, fairly quickly. And he asked me if that was something that that I wanted, and I straight up told him. I appreciate that, sir. But I was like, if you want me to be a staff NCOIC, I was like, I'll be one. I was like, but I was like, some people have, I was like, some people have like that want to. I was like, I just have the want to not suck. I was like, whatever I'm doing, I was like, I'm not gonna suck at it.
Yeah,
And so if they want to put me at MEPS, if they want to put me like at the head shed, like, to be completely honest, like I'll do whatever the RS wants me to, which is something I imagine, that they're like, oh yeah, like we can put him anywhere,
yeah.
you know. But
But that's the thing though, is that like that's how it needs to be. Like
yeah,
I think I think it annoys the crap out of me that I have this conversation with people. Is that it's like, why isn't every Marine like that? Like, hey, this is my job for the next 36 months. I'm either going to be really, really bad at it. I'm going to either be really, really good at it, or I might just be mediocre, and it's okay to be mediocre. But like, I don't understand how people can come out like I said in the beginning, like no one comes out here saying, "Hey, I'm going to be trash."
yeah.
But it's the fact of the matter that like they become it, and then they stay there, and they're like, "Oh, whatever, dude." And it's
And
like I
and
just
and
don't.
and if you're gonna be a turd by the end of your tour, you better be so polished and everything that you can, somebody can look at you and see their reflection.
Yeah,
Like like
but
like
like,
get better.
and that's my thing too, man. Is that like I just don't get, and it's also like I don't know how it is where you're at, but like when I was a rec aide, I would watch recruiters that were trash, and I would see the way that their fucking counterparts would react to them. And like, yo, you're not my boy. Like
Yeah,
if you didn't write a contract this month, like you better not speak to me. I don't want to hear your mouth. I don't want to hear you speak. Like, bro, if you don't bring contracts to the table, then when this office is speaking, you're sitting outside. Like that's how it was. Like if you didn't bring anything to the table, then I was gonna make sure. And it's like I was saying before, like in the Fleet Marine Corps, you have that chain of command, right?
yeah,
So it kind of gets lost on recruiting duty. It's like it doesn't exist no more. And like at least that's how a lot of what I saw.
yeah,
Because like when a recruiter wouldn't have something for tomorrow, like my boss, Massar Diaz, he didn't have to go to you and say, "Hey man, what do you have for tomorrow?" The A gunner would already be in your shit and be like, "Hey motherfucker, why don't you have shit for tomorrow? I gotta give Master I have to give fucking the staff at COIC the numbers and you don't have shit for tomorrow. Let's go find some shit."
yeah,
And I feel like a lot of times these recruiters who suck, they suck because no one's holding them accountable, not even the own recruiters in their office.
yeah, yeah. And I'm so where I've been at for the last, like 6 months. I'm actually getting my AO switched probably
Yeah, you
next,
told me that.
like, yeah, next month. So, what's coming with that is, since I'm going to the PCS, I'm going to be the A slash, and it's going to be me and a brand new recruiter. And when I was talking to my boss and everything about that, she was like, yeah, I want you to, like help her out, and actually, like, actually teach her, and so, and basically, like, start grooming to be a staff NCOIC, you know.
That's dope. That's a but see, like I like that because that's a
Yeah,
good experience because a lot of times you have people that become staff in COICs and they've never been in the position of bringing up. And it's like, bro, I have this dude. I'm not going to say his name. But if anyone listening knows him, you'll know who he is.
yeah,
There's this guy that I know who just became an 8412, right?
yep,
While he was a staff in COIC for almost 2 years, he has yet to train up one Marine through a 9-month eval cycle. How in the fuck do you make this is my mentality, bro. How the fuck do you make someone an 8412 and he's never trained one Marine through an eval cycle? His job as an 8412 is to be a career recruiter, subject matter expert, and he has yet to train one Marine through an 8412 eval, through a 9-month eval cycle. How the fuck that makes sense? And now, mind you, that's another thing
damn,
that I don't understand because they recently changed the order that in
mm-hmm,
order for you to be an 8412, you only have to be a staff at COIC for 6 months. Again,
yep,
how the fuck does that make sense? The biggest problem with recruiting duty is the lack of training. And you're going to make somebody an 8412 who has yet to put somebody through a 9-month eval cycle? Like, you haven't created one quality recruiter, but I'm going to make you a career recruiter.
Yeah. What? Hey,
Hey, hey, you know what?
I,
Hold
no, go ahead.
on. You know what, bro? I have the best idea yet. For now on, Meineke and any kind of mechanic shop should make the head mechanic someone who's only been there 6 months. He's got it, bro.
Absolutely.
He's got it. That's gonna be the best mechanic shop ever.
Until the wheels fall off.
Like I just don't understand. And then you wonder why you have Marines that are substandard. Bro, his staff at UIC was substandard. Like,
But we're not
just,
ready.
bro.
We're not ready to talk about that yet.
But that's what I'm saying though. It's like, bro, it just doesn't make sense. Like I honestly think that part of the recruiting, like part of your 8412 package should be your APR.
Yep.
And it should show that you have trained up Marines to be successful recruiters. Because if you haven't, then why do you deserve to be an 8412 whose job it is to do that? And then you wonder why
I wish I had an answer for you.
You know what I mean? And then you wonder why there's really bad 8412s out there. And it's like, because, bro, he couldn't even conduct an interview.
Yeah. Yeah.
Hey,
I did have a question for you.
Yeah.
So I've been listening. Sorry, I've been listening to your podcast for a little bit, and you know you didn't get selected to be an 8412. Is that right?
No, I did not.
Why? Do you know?
So I don't know.
Okay.
I will never get a straight answer from anybody.
Okay.
So the best example of it is that when you become an EADer, they only give you, yeah, my wife said, do you have time? So when you become an EAD recruiter, well, this is a good question because a lot of people have asked me and I haven't really gone into the extent of it. So what happened was when you become an EADer, you get a 2-year contract. Okay. So I came out on the duty with the understanding, hey, you only have 2 years on here. So I did my 2 years, and then halfway through, like at a year and a half, they put my extension in for my 3rd year, and it got approved.
Gotcha.
But they fucked me over in time, because what's supposed to happen is, and this is what it was explained to me later on after it was too late, is that you're supposed to come out for 2 years, and if you're a successful recruiter, that 3rd year they're supposed to make you a staff in COIC. Then that 3rd year, you're supposed to have your numbers of a staff in COIC and then submit your package so that you won't be required to need a 4th year on recruiting duty. Your package will already have been submitted.
Gotcha. Okay.
So me, I went out. I was a very successful recruiter for 2 years. Then on the summer of my 2nd year, they selected me to become a staff in COIC. I destroyed in a good way. I say destroyed in a good way. People are always like, wait, what? So I took an office that was already good and I made it better. And I overshipped and I overcontracted for 8 months straight.
Damn.
And then And then so everybody, like, I believe things happen for a reason.
Yeah.
I decided, so I went to RSS Atlantic City and I had came from RSS Monmouth, right? And when I went out to RSS Atlantic City after my 8 months of killing it, my goal when I went on recruiting duty was I wanted to be the staff in COIC of where I was a recruiter eventually, because that's where I was a poolee. So I was like, one day I'm going to be the staff in COIC of this office, because I've seen some of the greatest staff in COICs and I knew I could be better than them because they taught me how to be that. And that was my goal, was to be better than Mass Art Diaz, to be better than Gunny Ujama. Like, that was my goal.
Yeah.
So at my 8 months, so like my 7-month mark of being out there, the boss at the time in Monmouth failed for 8 months straight. He was an 8412. He was fucking dying, and nothing was happening because he was an 8412. ominous dominus, nothing's gonna happen, So finally, someone's like, "Hey, we're gonna fire him." So before the word got out that he was gonna get fired, I reached out to the major, to the CO, and at first I reached out to Keith, who was on like 2 episodes ago.
Yep. Yeah.
And I said, it was like 12 o'clock at night, and I was like, and I've known Keith since I was a Lance Corporal, since I was like 19 years old. I've known him.
Yeah.
So I was like, "Hey, Massart," I was like, "I want Monmouth." I was like, "I need Monmouth." He was like, "Bennett, it's not gonna happen." He was like, "You're a fucking brand new promoted staff sergeant. They're not gonna put you there. You're not in 8412. It's one of the hardest 1-in-5s in all of New Jersey, if not the hardest. They're not gonna put you there." And I said, "Massart, I'm going to bring Monmouth back. We will make mission. We will not fail if you bring me back to Monmouth. I fucking promise you." And he was just like, "Listen, I'll talk to the major. I'll find out what happens." Boom. So he talks to the major. The major calls me, and he's just like, "Hey, I'm gonna think about it, but I'm not gonna tell you yes." And he goes, "I don't know." So like, I think a week or so later, it's like 5:30 in the morning. I'm at the gym. It's me, my XO, and the CO, and a whole bunch of other people from the OSO. Like there was OSO applicants that were there, and we're just doing this CrossFit workout. I'm getting destroyed, and I finish up this work at the beginning of the workout. The captain comes over to me and he's like, "Hey, after the workout, the major's gonna want to talk to you." And I was like, "Okay." And he goes, "Be ready." And I was like, "What the fuck does that mean, bro?" So
Right.
I finished this workout. I'm dying, bro. I'm dying. I'm laying on the floor like, and he comes walking over and he's like, "Hey, let's go." I'm like, "Good to go, sir." So I go outside with him and I start talking to him. I'm like, what's going on, sir? Like, me and him, and this is like the first time me and him have ever had like a full on conversation, like to the point where like face to face, like, because my RSS was like an hour away, like 2 hours away.
Okay.
So
Damn.
like we never really had like a conversation in length about what was gonna happen type thing. So he was like, "Listen, Master O'Brien called me. He told me everything you're thinking about, and he was like, go change over, go home, get what you have at your house. You're gonna be the boss of Monmouth in an hour." And I was like,
shit.
I was just like, "Oh, okay, sir, good to go." Like in an hour type thing. And he was like, "Do you have anything to do out there?" And I was like, "Well, I had a table display, da da da." He was like, "Tell your guys you're not coming back." He was like, "Just get away." He was like, "Stand by, and when we have the time," he's like, "Stand by. I'm gonna go relieve the gunnery sergeant, and then I'm gonna let the Marines know that you're coming back to be the boss." And so that happened. Like 2 hours later, I showed up. He's like, "Hey, this is your new boss." And the good thing slash bad thing is that I had already worked with all these Marines.
Yeah.
So they knew me as a recruiter, but that's also a bad thing because then they know your bad habits, but they knew who I was. So they wanted to work for me. And they knew that I wanted to be an 8412, so they had my back in that aspect. So long story short, I ended up, I got there in January of 2020. I made mission from January 2020 until September of 2021. I missed mission one time and I got fired. And
like contracting or shipping?
Contracting. Now, mind you,
okay,
when I had gotten to the office, I had said, "Hey, I have 32 discharges that I have to take." And they said,
"Hold on, you had what?"
I took 32 discharges from the gunnery sergeant 32 discharges, yes. So I had 32 discharges that I had to take over that no one wanted to speak about, that no one wanted to talk about. Every time that I called the office and said, "Hey, I need the sergeant major here to come and do a pool val. Hey, I need somebody to come here and do this." "Oh, we ain't got the time for it." "Hey, we ain't got the time for it." So every month I was writing my contracts, but I was taking 2 discharges. I was writing my contracts, taking 2 discharges. So by the time September came, motherfucker, I have common sense, bro. I can't make a mission when I've literally been backpedaling for 9 months. Eventually, Eventually, I was going to miss. It was gonna happen, but no one wanted to have that conversation. I
Dude,
was
32 discharges. That's more than some recruiters write in a year.
Bro, I after all the math was done, it was like somewhat like 32. Like, and when I first got there, I had identified 16. Like, I sat there and I was like, yo, this dude doesn't I've never heard of him. This
Yeah.
dude can't, no one knows who the hell he is. So like after all the time, and I honestly, out of my own pool of people that I depped in, I only took a loss of my own that was like maybe 3 or 4.
Yeah.
And that's my own. But one of the things that was happening was the commanding officer was like, hey, you bring up the old person a lot. And I was like, because it's not my problem. Like, I understand that it's my problem and I'm taking care of it, but y'all aren't doing nothing to help me out. Like, and you didn't even do you didn't even do the due diligence to give me a pool scrub and to at least annotate that this was going to happen. Y'all just didn't want to make it seem like it was going to happen.
Yeah.
And then, and I think a lot of it was just that me and him had differences. There was a lot of times where like I just spoke my mind about things, or I just came off the like as you could tell, like I just say things,
You
and
speak your mind.
yeah, and that's my problem. But I personally don't think it's a problem, because I would rather tell you the truth than lie to you. But people don't want that in this world. And that's what happened. And a lot of what happened though was, and then I was lied to. So I was told that my package was submitted. I was told that my package was submitted, and that it was at district, and that I was gonna have my eval on such and such date. So the week before, I was like, hey, Master Guns, in order for me to have that eval, I had to have an SRI done. No one's come to do my SRI. So how could you already have my date set up if in order to have the date, I need the SRI? So I started catching them in lies that like, no, there's no way. Like, you're telling me this, but this is not the reality of it. So then I find out that my package was never submitted, and that I was never at first district, and that it was never going to be submitted. And then it's like, and then finally I missed mission, and I missed mission once, and he says to me, hey, I talked to Matt. And now here's the thing that really fucked with me, right? So I missed mission. He tells me to come down to the headquarters. And then I come down to the headquarters and I have a conversation with him. And then he's like, hey, I'm going to send the Master Guns over to the RS to talk to your Marines. And I was like, okay. So I'm standing by in headquarters. And it's like, bro, your Marines are going to tell you what the RI said. Like, that's going to happen.
Yeah.
So as soon as the RI leaves, I get back to my office and I'm like, so what's going on? And he's like, oh, I'm going to talk to the commanding officer about it and see if I can get you to stay on the duty, see if I can get you another month. And I was like, all right. I was like, I'll do whatever I can. I'll figure it out. I'm going to make it happen. So he leaves. So I go in the office and I ask my guys, I'm like, hey, so what happened? What I missed? And literally all my Marines are like, bro, what the fuck? And I'm like, what happened? And they're like, yo, he just came in here and he was like, why should I keep him the boss? Should I fire him? Do I need to fire him? Do you want him here as your boss? And it was like he was trying to get all of these Marines to say, no, we don't want him as the boss.
Yeah.
And all of the Marines told me this. And I was just like, yo, what the, like, why would anybody do that? Like,
Right?
Yeah. So then whatever. So he's like, hey, the CEO is going to call you and let you know what's going on. So like a week, like 2 or 3 days go by and I haven't gotten a call. So I call the CEO and I'm like, sir, like, what are we doing? I was like, I didn't say it like that, but I was like, sir, like, am I here or not? Like, I got to know what's going on. And then I said to him, because my biggest thing is, bro, I'm a reservist. So if you're going to fire me and you're going to take me off the duty, I got to go find a job. Like, I have kids, I have a family. And I said that to him. And you know what he said to me? I'm going to make this a t-shirt. He said, Bennett, you're a cat. You'll land on your feet.
Stop. He
I
did
swear to God.
not.
I swear to God, that's what he told me.
Oh my God.
Yep. And before that, I forgot to say that before, but and remember how I told you I had to submit a waiver to get my 4th year approved?
Yeah.
So it was the night of, like it was February 27th of 2020. And I haven't heard anything back. Like tomorrow's my EAS. I am out of the
Oh my
Marine Corps
God.
tomorrow, and I'm in the office. It's 11 o'clock at night, and he shows up, and I started being like, I don't want to say I started being belligerent, but like I was just like my attitude was through the roof, and I was like trying to make mission, and I was making mission. Like I had already made mission, and I had
Yeah.
identified stuff for the next month. And he starts talking to me, and he's like, "What's the problem?" And I'm like, "Sir,
Like,
I
what's the
might not
problem?
have a job tomorrow, and I
No
have a
shit.
family, and I have a newborn daughter who just arrived in my life." And I'm like, "Oh no, my daughter was about to be here." So
Okay.
like my daughter was about to be born. And I'm like, "Sir, like I need health insurance, like I need this and this." And all he says to me is, "Bennett,
You're a cat.
worry about what's at hand right now, and that's making mission." And then he says, "You're a cat. You'll land on your feet."
And
And I was like,
your EAS is tomorrow.
"Tomorrow." And he's like, "You're good." He's like, "You'll be good." And, and, and then, so like, if I'm honest, I think a lot of it was due to the fact that he had I think honestly, 100% of the fact that it was animosity towards me, that my package never got approved or never got sent up. Because
So yeah,
just of
but
the way.
why is that your fault that the package never got sent up?
No, that's what I'm saying. I'm saying that I think because
Oh,
of
okay.
my reaction to him is that he didn't want me to be his 8412. He didn't want
Got
to
you.
make me his 8412.
Gotcha.
And he said those things. He said, if I make you my 8412, my name will be on you the rest of your career.
Yeah.
And I would say things like, "But sir, I've never missed a mission for 13 months. Why would that be a problem? Like,
Yeah.
why would you not want my, like, I've done nothing but make it for 13 months. Like, why is that a problem?"
Yeah.
But yeah, so that was it, man. Yeah, they called me on October 16th. They were like, "Hey, he called me. He's like, "Hey, I'm on my way to your office." And I was, and he all he said was, "I'll see you in a minute." And then the next thing you know, he walked in and he was like, "I think you know why I'm here." And I said, I do." And then he fired me. But I guess that they didn't do their math and they didn't know. But they fired me on October 16th, but I couldn't get off the duty till March 1st. So I had 180 days of leave. And then I was like, I'm gonna sell it because I needed the money. I was like, I'm gonna sell some of it.
Yeah.
So I
Yeah.
sold a month of leave, and then I took 90 days of leave. And then, like, just to be who I am, I wanted to leave on a good note because that's who I am. So
Yeah.
I started making bets with people. I was like, "Sir," and the dude still owes me fucking dinner. Don't forget about that shit. So this captain still owes me dinner, and he says, "No, I don't." But so I walked in. So I came off of leave, and I walked in. It was a Friday, and I walked in, and I was like, "Hey, sir," I got about a month left, and I was like, "I've been sitting here in headquarters, not doing nothing, sir." I was like, "Why don't you let me go to one of the RSSs, get you some NWAs for Monday?" And he was like, "What?" I was like, "Sir, you heard me." I was like, "Let me go get you 4 kids to walk on Monday." And he said, "You're gonna go to this RSS and you're gonna find me people to walk on Monday on a Friday." I said, "Sir, if I get you the kids, do you have the walk-ons for Monday?" He said, "Yes." I said, "All right, bet." So I walked over to the Master Guns. I said, "Hey, Master Guns, is it cool with you if I go to this RSS?" He said, "Yeah, I got you." So I go to the RSS. I show up and there's 2 interviews going down. The recruiters are fucking trash. The interviews are garbage. I take over both interviews and I fucking both kids. I'm like, "Listen, you're gonna go to MEPS on Monday, and you're gonna do this, this, and the third. And I was like, you're joining the Marine Corps, da 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 da. Da. And I redo the whole entire interview because both of these kids said no. They both said no. They were like, no, I'm not doing this. So I just sat there on the couch like this the whole time, like listening to the interview. And I was like listening to how garbage this fucking interview was. So then halfway through the interview, I just stopped it. I was like, yo, stop doing what you're doing. I was like, bro, I took the benefit tags, I threw them on the floor. And I just started talking to the kids. No lie, both kids ended up committing. Both kids, I called the captain. I was like, hey, you got 2 walk-on spots? I got you 2 right now. So then he's like, no, you didn't. I'm like, I got this. I'm like, they're going home right now. They're coming back. Boom. The kids went home, came back with all their vitals and everything. So then I go out with the other dude and we find 2 more appointments. Same day, they come in the office. I do the same fucking thing. So now I have 4 fucking NWAs going up on Monday.
Holy shit.
So now, mind you, on Monday morning, no, my bad, there was 3. Because the one kid said, I can't go till Tuesday. He said, I can't go till Tuesday, but, and he had to, bro, he said everything. He's like, I can't go till Tuesday because I already had a snowboarding trip planned and I already paid for it. I already have the house. Like, I can't, like, he was like, and he straight out was like, bro, 10 minutes ago, I wasn't joining the Marine Corps. He was like, I can't just up and leave my girl and all my friends that I already paid for a house. He's like, but I'm coming back Sunday night. I have work that night. He's like, Monday, right after work, I'll come here with all my vital documentation and I'll go to MEPS on Tuesday.
Damn.
So Monday comes around. And mind you, I'm already like, I'm going to be out of the Marine Corps in 20 days. So I don't give a fuck. Like, I don't care. Yeah. So I come to the office and the boss is talking to me and he's like, hey, bro, what happened to that kid? I'm like, what are we talking about? He's like, where's the kid at? And I was like, bro, he told you. I was like, he told you he was going to call you as soon as he got out of work. Relax, bro. He's good. No, you got to go HV him. You got to HV him. I don't do that shit. That shit's fucking for the birds. You're stupid. I'm not going to go. Like, bro, I listen, for whoever's listening.
It's awkward.
Bro, you're a fucking, no, it's not awkward. You're fucking stalking somebody, bro. If you met a chick at the bar and she gave you her name and her number and said, hey, let's go to dinner tomorrow. And then tomorrow comes and she doesn't show up, you don't go to her fucking house. Like, that shit's fucking weird, bro. So I was like, you know what, bro? Whatever. You want me to HV him? I'll go HV him. So I go with the recruiter. And I'm like, all right. So go with the recruiter to do the HV. And we get to the kid's house. And the girlfriend comes to the door. And she's like, oh, he fell asleep late because he had work last night. Like,
crazy.
We all knew already. And she's like, I'll get him. So she invites us into the house. He comes downstairs with all the vitals. Boom. And I'm like, and the dude, he's speaking Spanish to the mother, explaining to her what's going on, And then we get in the car. So because I'm an asshole, and because you're an asshole, because you were just fucking telling me I don't know how to do my job. Like, and what pissed me off is that, like, I'm doing you a favor that's not mine. Like, this isn't my mission letter. This isn't my kid. Yeah. I'm getting out of the Marine Corps in 20 days. I don't care if this kid ships or not or does anything for you. I'm just doing this because I said I would do it, right? So I'm like, you know what, bro? I tell the recruiter, I'm like, hey, I'm like, Sergeant so-and-so. I'm like, do me a favor. He's like, what's up? I'm like, let me see your phone. So I FaceTime the boss and I start flipping out. I'm like, this motherfucker. I'm like, this kid's a bitch. I'm like, I'm gonna fuck. and the boss is like, what happened? What happened? I'm like, bro, tell me how I knocked on the front door. I stepped off the porch and I looked down the side street and the kid hopped off the second deck and running down the street butt ass naked with his pants on. And the boss is like, no way. And the recruiter's on the side. He's like, yo, he did. So then I call like the other recruiter. I get everybody in the office to believe this shit.
Yeah.
So we pull up to the office. I have all the kids' vitals in my North Face, like neatly tucked so nobody could see it. So I walk in the office and I sit down. I just sit on the couch. I don't even go into the boss's office because I already told them what happened. So I'm sitting on the couch and I'm like, bro, I can't believe this shit, man. I'm like, bro, here I am talking like I'm gonna get this shit done and I'm gonna get this kid on deck and da 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 da. Like, I'm like in my feelings. And then all of a sudden he comes out and he's like, yo, what the fuck happened? So I tell him the story again. I'm like, what? You don't fucking believe me, bro? I'm like, this
Yeah.
dude fucking hopped out the second floor, blah, 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 all this shit. And then he's like, and now he's heated, right? So he's like, damn, now I gotta call ops and tell them that I gotta get this NWA on off deck and that he can't go to the hotel. And then I stand up, I'm like, why the fuck would you do that? I got his docs right here, bro. And he's like, yo, you fucking piece of shit. Nah, nah, nah. And I'm like, but the thing that fucked me up about the whole entire situation was I don't do things like listen, I don't do things for you to say thank you. But when you don't say thank you, you're a fucking scumbag. Like that's the reality. Like I do things
Yeah.
because like I have the skill to do them, and because I said I was gonna do them. But when you don't say, "Hey, yo, good looks," and it's also this too. Like I'm a person where if I had an office, right, and someone came to my office and said, "I'm gonna find you 4 NWAs," I would look at you and say, "Get the fuck out of my office." I would take that as disrespect. I don't need you here. Because
Yeah.
if I needed you here to find me 4 NWAs, that means the command doesn't believe in me, and that means that I'm failing.
Yep.
Right?
And
And you
be
know
like,
what? And you know what,
I haven't been training my recruiters.
Tony? And you know what the craziest thing is?
What's
That
up?
dude's an 8412 right now. But I didn't. But I didn't become one. Like,
Hey.
bro, that's the thing, and that's why like I don't really share. Like that's why I don't share shit like that because I don't want people to be like, oh, this dude's on a soapbox. This dude's talking like. I just leave all that shit there because it's whatever. It happened and it is what it is.
Yeah.
But something that I've realized in the past year of being off duty is that, and I don't know if I had somebody tell me this. Oh no, I did. I had my old XO told me this. She said, now she's the OPSO, but she said to me, she was like, Bennett, she was like, she called me and she was like, are you thinking about coming back? And I was, and I was like, I've thought about it, but I don't know. And she straight out was like, well, what I would tell you is that the impact that you're having on Mick Rick from your podcast is something that you'll probably never have as an 8412. And then I thought about it and I was like, bro, like, I try to steer myself away from saying anything where someone in the Marine Corps is going to be like, hey, get him off of this podcast.
Yeah.
And the thing is, though, is that like right now, on average, every episode I do, I have at least 100 to 200 views on each recruiting episode that I do. And then I have people like yourself who reach out to me and hit me up. And bro, like I didn't even realize until the other day, like when you hit me with that picture,
Yeah.
I was literally like, what is that from? And then you were like, you say that all the time. And then I was like, do I? And then I was doing an episode like that same day. And all of
Yeah.
a sudden I went to say it and I was like, oh shit, I do say that. But like, and that's the thing, man, is like I'm able to, with the podcast, I'm able to, people look at it, and this is what I've been told at least, is that people listen differently because I have an out of regs mustache. I'm not a command member, and I'm talking about shit in a realistic way. And I'm also asking people who are on the duty, hey, what are you going through? And what could we work on, or how could we work on it? And it's just bringing to light more conversations like the episode that I did with the Sergeant Major or the episode that I did with the 8412. And that's the thing that sucks is that like I would love this to go further, but 9 out of 8, every 8412 that I've asked to come on the show is like, no, I can't do that. And they're like, because I'm going to say something that I should, because they've all said I'm going to say something that I shouldn't say, and it's like, well, why? Well, but what's the problem? Like, and that maybe what you're saying, maybe what you're not saying is what needs to be said.
Yeah, is the problem.
And then it's funny too, is because I had this one of my good friends. I had a talk with him the other day. He's an 8412, and he was talking to me about we got into the conversation of the podcast. And he started talking about my second episode. And I was like, Massart, I'm on episode 40 of my recruiting duty segment. Why are we still talking about 38 episodes ago?
Yeah.
I was like, I have grown in conversation since then. And then he gave me all of this useful information because he's an RI. And I was like, but bro, that would be a phenomenal conversation to have on the podcast because your views make sense. What you're saying, I completely agree with, but nobody hears that from their RI. Like, there's so much stuff that you would like a real fucking conversation from your RI, and you don't get it. Or and everything's just like, no one talks like this anymore. No one's like, hey, bitch, you're fucked up. You fucking suck. Go be better. Like, no one talks like that no more. And it's like, what?
That's because people get their feelings hurt. Like, like, dude,
But-
you know, like the Marine Corps, like from, you know, because like what year did you join?
2009.
So I joined in 2007. So, you know, like the Marine Corps back then is a different Marine Corps than what we have now.
100%.
You know what I mean?
But I understand that. But it's still like, bro, most of the kids that I put in the Marine Corps joined because I told them to their face, you fucking suck.
Yes.
Like, I'm like, bro, you suck.
Like,
you're trash. Your thought process is trash. Your ideas are trash. You're not going to make it. You fucking suck. But hey, we can be better. And I'm going to show you how to be better. But that's the problem.
Yes.
Is there's so much, and it's like you said from the beginning with BRC. There's no realism, and it's all gone. So when you do this cookie cutter shit and nothing real is happening and no one's really talking about what the fuck is going to go on there. Like, bro, why do we not? And again, this is my thing. Like, and this is why I started the podcast. Like, I have an episode, one of my very first episodes. There's this dude that came on and talked about how he was an alcoholic, went and got help, and now got off the duty. And it's like, why is that stuff that we're not talking about at BRC? Like, why do we not have successful recruiters who made it off the duty come out on the duty and be like, hey, I made it off the duty, but this is what I went through on the duty?
Yeah.
Like, why do we not have those conversations? Like, why?
Because that's gonna like the mentality is that's gonna scare people.
But here's the thing, though. I would rather you know what the fuck you're gonna walk into than like think about it. Like, when we prepare for Iraq or Afghanistan, do we not? We don't deal with IEDs because you might be scared, you might hit one. Like, no motherfucker.
Shit, right?
We do training. We train
face it
on. Yeah, like, we face IED 9 lines, and guess the fuck what? It's not like these Marines don't already hear the horror stories when they're out there in the fleet.
Yeah.
Like, it's not like when they first got histed, someone wasn't like, hey, motherfucker, you're going to hate your life. Okay, then let's face that shit head on. Let's have the dude who had an issue talk in front of somebody. Like, because every Marine wants to fucking stand up and talk in front of everybody. We all love it. We love to be on the soapbox, bro. So if you have a Marine who's, or even that, you have Marines like Gunnery Sergeant Flores, who was the recruiter of the nation. Why don't you have him come and talk to?
Yo, so he's a drill instructor right now, right?
Yes, and he just became he was drill instructor of the year.
So I went to a graduation because we had some kids that were old Marines that were graduating on Friday, and I actually met him, Gunnery Sergeant Flores. Yeah,
that's dope.
And I had no idea. And one of the other recruiters that was with me was like, yeah, that's Gunny Flores, and I was like, who the fuck is Gunny Flores? Like, and she's like, oh yeah, like he's all over like Instagram. Like, he used to be a recruiter, and was like recruiter of the nation, and then and now like just won drill instructor of the year. No idea who this dude was.
And he's also a doctor.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
And he became a doctor. And that's the thing is that, like, And that's the thing is that, like, why do you not have someone like him at BRC as a guest when you guys have the night, like the dinner before it ends, the graduation dinner, or even throughout the training, have somebody or someone who, bro, there's people who've gone off on recruiting duty who got out the Marine Corps and now own Fortune 500 companies and are finance majors and do all this cool shit. Like, why are you not having those people who used MC3 and MC4 to become successful? Why are they not talking to these dudes? And then it's the same thing like I've said before. Like, they paid what the fuck is his name? They paid Simon Sinek to come and talk to all of these 8412 at the 8412 conferences. Why don't these people talk to recruiters?
Yeah.
Like, those guys bro, those are the guys that don't need it anymore, bro. You're either going to be good at 8412 or you're already fucked and you're going to be a shitty 8412. The people who need those motivational speakers are the guys in the fucking seats doing the job every day. Like Chad Robichaux. Chad Robichaux is a Force Recon Marine who does motivational speeches. He does them a lot of times for free. He's told me numerous times, like, he's like, hey, I do it. Like, he's last year alone, he like spoke to 250,000 active duty Marines. And he's like, bro, and he's like, he'll go to RSs. Because if you think one RS, why wouldn't he at an all hands? But again, that's the same thing. At all hands, you're learning from the same 58412s that already don't teach you shit half the time. So why not have a quality freaking 8412 conference? Like, but that's the thing is, like, you have these beautiful 8412 conferences, but what about the recruiter? Where is their quality training coming from?
Should be coming from their staff in CIC.
But that's the problem. The staff, and then this is where you go into a freaking whirlwind of shit, because 9 times out of 10 your staff in CIC wasn't properly trained either. So now he can't properly give you the training that he needs to give you because he doesn't know how to properly give the training. And that's why, like, and that's my thing, is that's why, like, I think it's so fucked up that everywhere else in the Marine Corps they care so much about training, but here, hey man, it's an individual duty, figure it the fuck out. And that's literally what you're told all of the time. It's like, hey man, you'll be all right, you'll figure it out. And it's like, no. Like, no. Like, why? Like, if you have, and then you got to think about it too. It's like, how many substandard recruiters do you have? And that's my question. Is that a reflection of the staff in COIC, or is that a reflection of the ARI, of the RI shop? Or is that, like, who is it a reflection of? Because, like, when you have,
I think that one's a little complicated too.
Yeah, but then what do you? And then that's the question too: is what are you doing about your substandard Marines?
Yeah.
Because if the answer is, hey, like, bro, this month, I'm not gonna say what RS it is, but I heard a rumor that at all hands, when all hands was done, do you know what they did?
What?
They had all of the Marines sit inside of a VFW and make TCs and prospect for Saturday. So you had over 100 Marines speaking over each other in one room, prospecting for what reason? What did you think was going to come out of that? If the guy couldn't already make an appointment yesterday,
in the office,
think he's going to now, in the office where he's comfortable, you now think that because you have this beautiful PowerPoint up and you have all these 8412s around, magically you're going to get more numbers and you're going to get more appointments and interviews?
Dude.
Like, or on Saturdays with 0 and 1 training, oh, let's bring all of the Marines to headquarters to make phone calls. Oh, wow. Jackass just drove 3 hours to fucking make phone calls in an office when he could have done it on his own. Like, that's not training. That sit here and make phone calls is not training. Like, and then they wonder why the substandard Marines stay substandard. Because you're not putting in the time to not make them substandard. Because they know that you don't give a fuck about them.
Yeah. So,
like, and that's how they feel. Yeah. And or their mentality is, I've already been substandard and nothing has happened. Or they see the Marines across the RS that have been substandard, haven't got RFC'd, and they're like, oh, well, he did it for a year and a half, and he made it off the duty. They just sent him to MEPS. They just sent her to MEPS. Oh, they just sent him to headquarters. So then it becomes this game of, wait a minute, I could do nothing, still get paid, and make it off the duty with the ribbon? Why not?
Why not?
Like, and that's the thing is, there's not people like you that have
Dude,
that driven mentality.
Like, I would lose my shit if I went back to the fleet after this 3 years and some corporal or some sergeant was like, man, Gunny, what did you do on recruiting duty? Like, well, I recruited for about 3 months, and I spent the entire rest of the 3 years as the operations clerk. I'd be, what?
Bro, I'm telling you, man, and that's the thing that, like, I'll be honest, man, and I've had some really good friends of mine that were killer recruiters, and they 6 months later were put on into the ops clerk position or were sent to MEPS, and I've straight out told them, you don't deserve the ribbon. Bro, if you don't do 36 months of being a recruiter or a staff at COIC, why the fuck are you getting the ribbon? That's just my mentality. I don't agree with it. I think it's fucked up because, like, there's a Gunny that was a horrible recruiter, and because he picked up Gunny, they made him the MEPS liaison, and now he's been a MEPS liaison for 3 years, and he's gonna go and get the ribbon. And to me, it's like, that's fucked up. Like, that's really fucked up because 9 times out of 10, most, like, I don't know, man.
Are you talking about like the whole like fuck up move up mentality?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, bro, you were a trash ass dude on recruiting duty, so they made you an ops clerk, and now you're gonna get off the duty never having dealt with that struggle, and you're gonna get the ribbon.
But that comes back to the person. It's like, dude, like, when you go back and some sergeant gets histed, and they're like, man, staff sergeant or man, Gunny,
Yeah, right.
hey, what's recruiting duty like? And you're gonna be one of two people. You're gonna be like, hey, man, like, it's a struggle, but it really is one of the most rewarding and challenging things, because it gets rewarding when when one of your pulleys is like, oh man, thank you. Like I never would have thought, that this would have even been a thing, unless you like stopped me at Walmart and was like, hey man, like, you want to be stocking shelves for the rest of your life, or you want to actually do something,
Yeah.
They're like, what, but yeah, like that's wild.
Yeah, bro, it's nuts, man, and that's the thing is that, and that's why, like, when I see people on, and I'll end with this, but like, that's why, like, when I see people on those different pages and stuff, it's like most of those people that say the shit they say were probably garbage ass recruiters. Like, most people who speak the way they speak on these different freaking forums and stuff, it's like, bro, you probably weren't a good recruiter. like, and that's the thing is, like, most people who complain about how hard recruiting duty is, like, like me and my boy were talking about it the other day. I called him and, like, I talk to him all the time, my boy Durkee, and he'll call me. And the other day I was talking to him, and I was like, bro, isn't it crazy that, like, people talk about how hard recruiting duty is, and me and you spent the whole entire summer on the boardwalk with our feet up on the beach? And he's like, yeah, and I'm like, I don't get it. Like, bro, me and my boys, like, bro, we used to just go out gallivanting, like, all day long. Like, we would just go out all day, not AC, not TC, go to the boardwalk, go to the arcades, go to different restaurants, do things that probably shouldn't be done on Marine Corps recruiting duty. But
those things would never happen.
Exactly. Like, and I mean, like, what I mean by that is being out at a restaurant while not working.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that's my thing is that like, bro, we never cared about ACs or TCs or any of those things. We were out enjoying our fucking life, bro.
Yeah.
And yet we were still making mission. Like, bro, I still wrote 4 contracts a month. When my boss called me and said, "Hey, where are you?" I would say, "Hey, I'm at Tommy's by the office," and he'd be like, "Oh, all right, cool. I'm gonna come meet you." And then we would all have dinner together as an office. And like, and that's the thing is that like we were able to live a normal life while going out there. That's why when I find out that people talk about how bad the duty is, I'm like, bro, unless you're someone who's like you, where you're in San Diego and Marines are a dime a dozen, anywhere else in the world,
Yeah.
anywhere else in the world, you're in your Marine Corps uniform and nobody ever sees Marines anywhere. So they're like,
Yeah.
hey, let me buy your 7-Eleven stuff. Hey, let me buy your stuff from Wawa. Hey, let me buy this for you. Hey, let me buy your whole family dinner. Or hey,
Yeah.
let me buy you a cheesecake. I don't know what the fuck. But like
Yeah.
when I was out on the duty, people literally would stop me everywhere I went and be like, hey, let me buy you this. Let me, and I couldn't say, and I would say no. But like my point of the matter is like I don't know how you could be in the Marine Corps uniform where most people don't know what it even looks like and they treat you with a lot of respect most of the time and you sit here and say it's the worst time of your life. I I I just don't understand it. Like
Yeah.
I feel like if you're a shitty recruiter, you must hate the Marine Corps. Like if you can't speak about it and it's been your job for 12 years, I feel like you must just not like it.
I think people like their job. Does that make sense? Yeah. People like their job.
My
But
hair's crazy. But
what's that?
I said my hair
Dude,
is look crazy right now.
dude,
But all right, so
yeah.
I know we kind of went on like a whole bunch of blah
We did.
tangents. But I guess my question for you would be being brand new to it, what do you think your advice is for anybody who's gonna go through that first, like that 6 month period from BRC till where you're at? Like, what are some of
Yep.
the emotions that you felt, the mental anguish, like and something I gotta do an episode on, but I haven't really talked about is just like the pressure and the anxiety that you're not ready for because nobody prepared. And that's another thing at BRC. Like you're
Yeah.
not, and I get it again, like realism, like you can't be prepared for something until you actually are living through it.
Yeah.
But it's like, so that's my question to you is like, what anxiety have you felt that you never felt before, or maybe you have, but it's in a different way?
So and this was easily the biggest one that I had to that I had to swallow was I don't like not being good at something, right? Like, and I was like, I've been good at my job pretty much like the entire time I've been in the Marine Corps. Like I run decent PFTs, decent CFTs. I'm pretty good. When I came to recruiting duty, and when I started making TCs, when I started AC, and when I started doing all these things, and people were like, no, 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 no. And I would go, like I went my first month, I went my second month without writing a contract. I'm like, oh my God, like, this shit is hard,
Yeah.
And then, and I was talking to one of my buddies, that's in Virginia, and he's like on his last like 9 months, and I'm like, yo, I was like, what, like, how do you do this, man? And he was like, yo, he's like, when you go into the schools, he's like, don't talk about the Marine Corps. He's like,
Yeah.
literally, he's like, go in there and just mess around with the kids, And dude, I cannot lie to you. I swear to God, the next day I went to one of the high schools, and like dudes were like throwing footballs and everything. And in my uniform in Deltas, I jumped up and like intercepted the ball, and I looked at this dude and I was like, man, I was like, I really hope you're not a wide receiver. And all his friends were like, oh. But
Yeah.
then I started talking to him, and I set an appointment with him. and
Yeah,
then he ended up being like DQ'd, but
yeah,
like down at MEPS. But I was like, yeah, just like that. And then I was like, okay, I was like, maybe I just need to relax,
bro,
and let this shit happen,
bro,
and
that's so true.
yeah,
Like,
I need I would tell everybody like get out of the mindset of your staff sergeant so and so, your gunny so and so, your sergeant so and so.
bro,
Like you need to go back to your Tony or your Doug,
bro,
because
bro,
hey,
dude, you're not wrong, bro. You're fucking, that
like
is spot on, dude. And
when
that's
you're
what
out,
happens.
yeah,
That's what happens is like if you talk to most recruiters, they're like and you ask them like someone posted on that Facebook page, they were like, when do you find your battle rhythm? And someone was like, never. And it's like,
yeah,
no. Nine
no,
times out of 10, you find your battle rhythm like 6 months to a year in, and that's when you find out, oh shit, I'm just Doug. Let me be Doug. And then people are going to
yeah,
join the Marine Corps because they met Doug, and it's that simple. Like you recruit 9 times out of 10, you recruit who you are, and
yeah,
people draw near to you. And that's the thing. Like same thing you said. Like I had a buddy of mine, Romain. He told me the same thing. I was out seeing with him at a basketball court, and I'm at a basketball court, and I'm in uniform. And no, we were in civvies, and I'm talking about the Marine Corps, and he just looks at me and he's like, "Bro, shut the fuck up and play basketball." He was like, "Just play
yeah,
basketball, and that's it." And then if you get into the conversation, because he's like, bro, they know you're a Marine. You just pulled up in a government vehicle. You have a Marine Corps
yeah,
T-shirt on. They know they've seen you in the school. They know who you are. He was like, bro, once you just stop talking about the Marine Corps every other sentence, and you just talk about, or you like you said, bro, I used to sit down at tables and roast people all day and just
yeah,
make fun of everybody, and they'd be like, bro, this dude's really fucking funny. And then,
yeah,
bro, I would walk in the hallways and I would pull kids off the locker. I would like talk to kids in the like hallways, and teachers would get mad at me, but the kids found it funny. And then I would talk to the teacher like offline. But like, and that's the thing is like once you get like comfortable to what you're doing, and you stop being such a fucking like some people are
a
just so
robot.
stern. Yeah, and that's the thing is, and then especially with you when you're doing interviews, you're doing the interview by BRC standards, or you're doing the interview by your boss's standards. And it's like, no, just do MC. Like, yeah, I'll never say don't follow MC3, but you have to make it your own because people see through all of those things. But if you do all of those skill steps and you make it natural, then people are like, oh shit, Tony's actually a good guy and he cares about my future. When parents talk to you, they're like, oh shit, hey, when kids graduate, Marines come back, hey, Staff Sergeant so and so, Gunny so and so was a great dude, and the reason why I joined is because of blah blah blah. And now it's, but yeah,
Yeah, and
just
but yeah, that
relax,
was
bro.
yeah, yeah, that was like the biggest hurdle was just being like, all right, dude, I just need to chill the fuck out, and like it'll happen. Like the way I ended up looking at it was like I just lat moved, like because that's exactly what I did. I just
Yeah,
lat moved, and I'm like I know nothing about this job.
yeah,
Now I just need to learn how to actually do this job and just be a normal person.
bro. And that's the thing, and that's the best way to think about it is I just lat moved because like I have this buddy of mine that I talk to all the time who's on the duty, and he just got decent. And he told me the other day, he said to me on the phone, he was like, bro, I just got good. I'm the best. Or he was like, I'm doing the best I'll ever do. And I was like, what's your APR? He goes, 1 point. I said, stop right there. I don't want to hear anything else. I was like, if you're telling me you're good and you're saying 1 point something, shut the fuck up. And but the thing is with this dude is that he's still like 2 years into the duty every day, bro, I hate this shit. Bro, I hate this shit. I'm like, bro, shut the fuck up already. You have a whole nother year of this shit. Like the fact that you've already been alive for 2 years on this duty and you still say every morning, oh my God, this is the worst thing ever. It's like, bro, you cannot think about this as the worst thing ever, or it's going to be and I said this to him, you're allowing something that isn't even real, like something that has no action or heart or like it's just a duty, something that is a fucking, like, I don't even know how to say it. It's not a figment of your imagination because it's real, but something that's not a being, you are allowing to fuck up your whole life.
It's like you're literally sitting on barracks duty for 24 hours, and every 2 seconds you're like, this is the worst. This is the worst. This is the worst. This is the worst for the entire
It's like,
24-hour
bro,
period.
dude, just embrace it, man. Just embrace it. You're going to be here for the next 3 years. Just make it the best 3 years of your life. Like, and make it as best as it possibly can be. Like,
yeah. You're
I don't know.
You're gonna have those days where you're like, oh my God, I fucking hate this shit. But you have that shit in the fleet. You have that shit in the fleet too.
Yeah.
You know, there might be a little bit more on recruiting duty, but you know, just because it's a little bit more stressful. But like it's just a fucking duty, man. Like
I'm telling you, man, I think that's really what it is, man, is that people give it the power that it doesn't need. Like, people give the negativity of it. Like, you're allowing it to rule your life.
like
And it's like,
the same
no.
shit we tell, you know, dudes that are, you know, that are going to boot camp. Be like, hey man, drill instructors can't stop time. Guess what? The Marine Corps recruiting duty cannot stop time.
Yeah.
Eventually your 36 months is going to be up, and if you want to keep doing this, you can. If you don't, congratulations, go back to your job, which is probably what I'm going to do if I don't get selected for warrant officer. So we'll see.
So
yeah, man.
So first of all, thank you for coming on. I truly
No problem.
appreciate this. I definitely will definitely do another episode with you because I feel like there's a lot more that we can cover.
Yeah.
And I just, first of all, again, thank you. I appreciate it.
No
and
problem,
I also,
man.
again, I'm going to make that into a t-shirt. I just got to find out how to make it into a t-shirt the way that I want to. And again, thank you seriously, thank you for listening, because like I didn't even know that I said that, and I was just like, wow, that's awesome that I say that, and then I caught myself saying it. So the fact of
Listen with
reality
purpose. Listen with purpose.
Yes, not with a purpose. But all right, man. Well, hey, thanks a lot, Tony. I appreciate it, man. Have a good rest of the night, and I wish you all the NWAs and people in your future.
Let's hope so.
Yo, this week, make it happen, man.
All right, man. All right, later.